Before I introduce you to my next guest today, I want to make sure that you're aware of two new resources to help you to increase your productivity, clarify your purpose, and improve your communication skills. The first one is our Facebook community called Leadership with Purpose. So it's a private community. So go to Facebook groups, search for Leadership with Purpose, and send a request to be invited into the group. There's a few questions for you to answer, and then live to have you a part of that community of other like-minded leaders. Our team is really excited about launching the Next Level Coaching Roadmap. It's a group coaching format, so highly recommend that you check that out and to get your questions answered. If you're a leader that's experiencing any of the following, this is definitely a group format that's going to help you break through to your next level within leadership and your career. So if you have any fear about moving to the next level in your leadership career, this is a group that you'll want to connect with. If you have loss of confidence, if you're kind of confused, like not knowing really how to tap into the hidden job market, if you have a desire to really to grow to the next level, this is definitely a group that you'll want to be able to connect with. If you want to know how to stay calm in a high stress environment, there's going to be strategies, tips, and resources, conversations all around how to develop skills to do just that. So if you want more information, head over to warrenwandling.com/the next level coaching. And in there on that page, you'll notice more information about the coaching roadmap, but also there's a link for you to schedule a phone call with me so we can help really figure out if this is the right fit to helping you take your career to the next level. Again, that's warrenwandling.com/the next level coaching. Well, welcome back to another episode of How to Become an Obstacle Buster. I'm your host, Warren Wandling, this show that's dedicated helping leaders and entrepreneurs to overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success. And I have a great guest to help us do just that. In fact, a returning guest, Jeremie Kubicek. Welcome to the show, Jeremie.
So good to be back. Thank you so much. Good to be with you all.
Yeah, thank you again for being on the show again. And for those listeners that didn't hear the first episode, I think it was episode 79. And that episode, Jeremie shared some great strategies around how to really unlock the potential of a leader. So if you haven't listened to that, I highly recommend go back and listen to that. But today we're really excited about unpacking some of the strategies that he has around his new book called The Peace Index, a 5-part framework to conquering chaos and find fulfillment. So welcome to the show, Jeremie.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about it. There's a lot of things I've learned. I'm just ready to share with the world. So it's really fun to be able to do it today.
Yeah, and so for those listeners that maybe aren't familiar with your work, can you share I know that you're a powerful communicator, you're a serial entrepreneur, content builder. Can you kind of share some of your background and what you do?
Yeah, I create content that unlocks people, and companies, organizations use it. And primarily, our main client is consultants and coaches who use our content inside their coaching clients or their in their contracts with customers. So it's used inside Google, Microsoft, Adobe, Starbucks, those kinds of companies, Pfizer, and we're in about 117 countries. So that's what I do. So the content might be, some of you might have heard of the 5 voices. You might have heard of the 100X leader, 5 gears. My first book was a Wall Street Journal bestseller called Leadership is Dead. And then the latest one is the Peace Index. So that's what I do. I create content that college sports use, companies use, families use, so on and so forth.
Yeah, excellent. So within writing the Peace Index, what really inspired you to write this topic?
Yeah, Warren, I think I'm just observing. Like I lived in Russia years ago, 1993 to 95, and that shaped the way that I got to see their view of the world, and it kind of gave me perspective. Well, I've just been watching people through COVID. I've been watching so many things. And I realized, like, without inner peace, it's unbelievably hard to have outer peace. Like, and I started watching people crumble at some of the basic things. So I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be a way to assess it, to actually review yourself, if you will, and maybe get to the point where you can start living a little bit more secure, a little bit more confident. And peace was a major element. I think, especially this fall, this book launches October the 4th. And this fall, with all of the midterm elections, with all of the geopolitical issues, all of the pent up frustrations from social and pandemic issues, there's a lot less peace in the world than there needs to be.
Yeah, so that raises a question in reference to we've all definitely, like you just mentioned, right? We've all witnessed unrest and disruption and chaos. So I'm curious, how can you have peace while we're living in chaos?
hmm And that's the key idea. It's like, uh, you know, not allowing someone else's lack of peace to affect your level of peace. What would that look like? That is the actual maturing of a person. A mature person has the ability to take uh, all types of waves and chaos and all types of things and handle them to such a degree and put back out into the marketplace or into the family a piece that goes above any understanding that doesn't make sense. And so it's this ability to really harness difficulties and get objective, be rational, and not respond in chaos. And again, that's what I think I've been watching. It's just too much chaos.
So then in your book, Jeremy, you state to your reader that the path towards peace begins when you identify the barriers between you and peace. Can you expand upon that?
Yeah, so the idea is that we have five circles, and every one of us has this number over our head, whether we are aware of it or not. In fact, every person that you come in contact with has a number. Right now, the number might be 67. It might be trending up. It might be trending down. Maybe it's flat. It might be a 72. It could be a 91. And it changes each and every day, depending oftentimes on our circumstances. The more mature you get, the more stable that number is. And that number is tied to these five circles, which are purpose, people, place, personal health, or provision. And when one of them is off, it can really affect the other one, especially if it was your driver that's off. And so that's what I'm really trying to help people see is you can actually start working on your level of peace by working on each one of these circles.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So within like one of those circles that you mentioned is purpose.
hmm
I thought it was fascinating in your book. You'd mentioned that sometimes leaders they are kind of confused of how they connect with their purpose,
hmm
right? So the question that you pose in the book is your purpose tied to responsibilities, or does it come from a core of your existence of meaning of life? So why is it so important for us to get it right to understand where we connect with our purpose?
Well, the first thing I'd say is every person, all of us has a purpose, but some find it. Very few
Interesting.
find the purpose. And so if you think about people do things out of responsibility, well, I've got kids, I need to do this, or I've got my wife, or I've got this, or my parents are wanting this. And so responsibility then becomes the driver for why we do what we do. And so the idea is, what if wouldn't it be great if you could actually align who you are with what you do, and what are you naturally good at? The Japanese, they have this phrase, Ikigai. It's been around a long time. A lot of different groups have used it. The idea of what do you love needs to match with what you're good at, which needs to match what the world needs, and then what you can be paid to do. So wouldn't it be great if you could do what you love and the world needed it and they'd pay you for it? So, I've used that phrase a lot in my world in Giant is like, let's let the world fund us to influence it. Let's
Oh
do
yeah.
the things that we're so passionate about and we're so good at that the world would pay us to impact and be provided for and have income. And that's a hard thing, especially the lower social maybe opportunities that you have, and that you have to actually work at it to find what your purpose is. And most people just give up and they fall prey to their responsibilities. And then they wake up and they call it a midlife crisis because they just really have never figured out what their purpose is.
Yeah, so that's really key in reference to finding. I mean, I think it's an inside job, right? In reference to helping to
Mm-hmm.
connect with that purpose. So when someone reads your book and they figure out what their number is around this circle purpose,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to help them connect with those other four circles then within the process?
Well, it's gonna cause them to realize, for many people, out of these five circles, one of them is the driver, which means it's the most important to you. It's typically either purpose or people. And in all the thousands of times I've asked that question or surveyed, it's been those two. So let's just take, for instance, I used to live in Atlanta, and I used to own the John Maxwell assets on the brands. I used to run, and I was CEO over the Catalyst conferences. I built the Chick-fil-A Leader Cast brand, partnered with Chick-fil-A. I was doing all of these really, really big initiatives. I was working with Pat Lencioni and Henry Cloud and a lot of amazing thought leaders.
Yes.
But my purpose was like a 60. And like, how could your purpose be off? And it was because I felt responsible for their brands and their mission when I had my own vision, which is what I'm doing now. And so I had to actually realize like I'm in a great spot with provision. I was in a great spot with place. I had a great spot with people, but my driver was purpose. So my purpose was so low because I was being a manager of other people's businesses when I had a vision of my own. And so I had to make some decisions. And so I decided to basically, resign and let someone else take that over, even though I was a primary owner. And I went and started my own, and my purpose shot up because I finally got to work on what I wanted to do and what I thought could change the world. So it was a journey that took me a number of years, but I finally had the guts to like, hey, I've got a lot of provision here I could lose. Provision is just earnings. And I had to really, work through that to get to my purpose. But whatever your driver is, if it's low, everything is low. If it's high, everything else will be affected high, usually at the same regard. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So within the index, you got to determine what your driver is,
Mm-hmm.
and then make sure that you're addressing that to making sure that it's at the right number.
That's right. And if it's people, you might go, well, what's the situation? Can you control it, or can you not? Is it can you control, or is it uncontrollable? And you control the controllables. And the reality is, you might have a situation where you have a cancer in the family. It's uncontrollable. Well, that's driving your peace number down because your people number is really low, or you've got unresolved tension with a sibling or whatever it might be. There's always, they always say you're only as good as your weakest kid. It's like, and so the reality is, what I'm trying to do is I want everyone to understand, when someone walks in, they have a number over their head. Well, you might not think they're really contributing at work right now. Well, you have no idea that they have a health situation that they can't resolve and they don't know what to do with. So they're nervous. And so that's affecting them in other places. So by talking about the peace index, it's a better way than saying, how are you? I go, hey, Warren, how are you? You go, good. How are you? I'm good. Well, all we're doing is just saying hi to each other.
Right.
What the peace index does is it actually helps you help people solve situations and maybe increase their peace levels in ways that if that just don't currently happen without you actually addressing them.
Right. It sounds like obviously self-awareness is playing a huge part, right, in reference to what those numbers are. So within that self-awareness, how does someone determine if it's what their driver is?
Yeah, so it's really more like, which one of those is most important to you, and if you think, people really are what I think about all the time, or purpose. The other day I had someone go, no, it is actually provision. Provision is my driver. It affects everything. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not judging any of it. Just, what is it? And so people usually know once they spend enough time with it. And then what they realize is like, I've got to keep that number higher. Well, what can I do to keep that number higher? And again, that's just what the book is. There's a whole section that is you have your own peace plan, which is what's your peace plan for increasing your peace levels. And again, if it's provision, there's an assessment, there's opportunities. If it's personal health, mind, body, or spirit, there's things you can do. If it's place, move, or I'm going to paint my house, or I'm going to redo my backyard. I'm actually going to do it because it really affects that number. And I think that's what's fun about the book, and it's getting really good remarks from people because they realize how practical it is, where you can actually assess what's not going right in your life and do something about it. And that's been, I think, really helpful.
Yeah, that's what I think that is really one of the great insights with the process is that there's so many uncontrollables that we're all dealing with that it gives us that framework that'll be able to help us gain peace so that we can make an impact in other people's lives as well. Because I assume if you're out of that number and you're not have the peace, then you're not making the greatest impact that you could if you did have peace.
That's right. That's right. Now, can I share what my favorite chapter is?
Yes, that'd be awesome.
And it's chapter 8. It's actually something I've been working on for some time. And for those of you listening, you may be intrigued to know, you have a number over your head right this moment, and it might be different tomorrow. And as you hear this, it actually might increase because you might have a little bit more hope in certain areas. And hope is a key driver of peace. But my favorite chapter is chapter 8, and it talks about keeping the peace. And the whole construct is there's a system, and I've been using this for about 3 years now, virtually daily. I did it this morning. I have something I do every morning. I do a call up exercise every morning. I remind myself who I am. I kind of go through why I'm on, what my purpose is. I remind myself of what I'm made to do, what my superpowers are. And it's a really big deal. And I used to think that was like cheesy, like Stuart Smalley on Saturday Night Live, doggone it, people like me. I'm healthy, happy, and all that stuff. But it's really way bigger than that. It's like, no, I'm actually calling myself up into the position that I'm at. Today, I was working on a really tenuous situation for a client that I'm working with. I mean, nationally tenuous. And, I had to be ready. And so I went and worked out. I called myself up in the position. I got myself ready so that I could be the best I could for that person. So then I go throughout my day. At the end of the day, around 5:30, I'd use this old Jesuit model called the Examine that Loyola created. And it's a really, really cool model. I've modified it to be a little bit simpler. I do 3 things every day. I go, number one, what was I grateful for today? And it was like, they have to be big. And then I might text someone, hey, thanks for that great conversation or what have you. And then the second thing I do is I look back and go, where was I off today? Is there any area or is there any place that I was off? And was it me? And always start with me, or is it someone else? And what I'm doing is I'm looking for that opportunity to really grow, take captive any thoughts I might have and make them better. And then the last thing I do is I think about tomorrow. I kind of plan tomorrow, pray over that for tomorrow. I'm getting my mind right for the next day. And then the last thing that I do before I go to bed, if anything made it through that gauntlet of filters, then if there's any leftovers, then I look and see if there's a theme I need for my life. I call it rest in peace sleep. So RIP sleep is basically, you know what? Tonight I'm going to pick a theme and I'm going to eradicate negativity, or I'm going to prefer hope, or I'm going to expect, joy, or whatever. I'm going to pick a theme over me. And that's the theme I kind of go to bed on. And then I wake up in the morning and I play a game to see if I can remember what my theme was. It's actually harder than you think. And then I call myself up and I start the day again. But what I've done by doing that is I've actually become more self-aware. I'm actually now looking at my peace index, usually on a weekly basis. and I kind of analyze it. I have a conversation with my wife or my kids about theirs and mine, and it becomes really easy dialogue to address situations and issues so that they don't become bigger than they need to become. You've always heard the phrase like it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, actually, it was the pent up frustration that you didn't deal with along the way. And that's what the peace index does. It gives you a game plan for how to address what's not going right, increase your peace levels, and then give you a daily plan that you can keep the peace.
Yeah, I love chapter 8 as well, and that process seems simple at first read through, uh, but since it's easy, sometimes it's easy not to do it.
Hmm.
So I know once our listeners pick up your copy of the book, what would you say for them to encourage to follow the process consistently so it can be a habit?
Yeah, I mean, try and see. And what will happen was, for me, I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, what it was doing it was a way for me to manage my emotions, so that other people didn't have to manage my emotions.
that's that's well said. Yeah, very good. So another key concept that you share in this book is that most of us are locked up by our self-preservation. Can you expand upon that?
Yeah, absolutely. So self-preservation is the concept, and this came from my first book, Leadership is Dead. But it's self-preservation is when you overprotect what you're afraid of losing. So the idea is, do you have something to fear? Do you have something you're trying to hide? Do you have something that you're trying to prove? And really life, I mean, a secure, wise person is, you know what, I really don't have anything to fear. I have nothing I'm trying to hide, and I'm not trying to prove myself right now. And it's really, really, really hard to do, because I can tell you right now, I probably have two people I'm trying to prove myself to. And yet, it's a journey to get to that point of secure, confident, and humble. And it's just a way better way to live. But self-preservation is everywhere, and it comes from insecurity, and it's the chief source of most drama in workplaces.
Oh yeah, interesting. Exactly right. So so in the peace process helps to really unlock that because it's you have the number and you are if your driver number is the highest, then you're going to make a greater impact.
Yep, that's it. And when you're at a level of like, you know what, if you drop down, and everyone knows it, everyone listening, you know, when you're not at peace, when you're not at peace, you affect everyone. It's like a reverb effect. And your spouse, like, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? No, I'm good. I'm fine. And
Yeah.
you're lying. Your kids, is dad okay? Your coworkers, hey man, what's up with you? Are you all right? Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And we fake it, but we're not, because what's happened, and that's why the daily peace, keeping the peace is so important, because it resets it every day. Like I'm not building up all of these pent up emotions. So to getting to the level where I can actually share with you what my peace index is, and it's objective language. I can go, hey Warren, where's your peace index, man? So Warren, let's just play. What's your what is your driver of all five of those? Which one is most important to you?
Yeah, purpose.
Purpose. Okay. So let's just play the game. Is it okay if I just do an assessment real
You
fast?
bet. We can just
All right.
yeah,
So
that'd be
let's
great.
so let's go through. What you're going to do is you're going to take all five of these. You're going to go 1 through 100. 100 is your highest level. So how do you feel about your purpose right now, 1 through 100?
So the purpose is at 90.
Okay. And how about the people in your life? And this would be the top 10 people in your world.
Yep, that is the people I had 80.
80. Okay. And then, you know there might be a situation there too, and you go, can you control it or not? And then what about place? How good do you feel about your home, your neighborhood, your house, your city, region?
Yep, the place is about at a 70. We just were in transition moving, looking for a new
Yep.
permanent home. So
There you go. So that's going to be an issue, right? So then how about personal health? Mind, body, and spirit all collected
Yeah,
together.
that would be 95.
95. There you go. And then last one would be provision. It's your earnings. How good do you feel about, do you have what you need to do what you do?
Yeah, I would put that in 95 as well.
95. All right. So you add all three of them, all five of them together, and then divide by five, and you're at an 86 peace index. So your number over your head is an 86. So by, again, to the listener to go, hey, that Warren's at 86. Well, that's pretty good. 86. I'm right there. I was at 87 yesterday when I did it. But I've been down to a 60 before, and I've been as high as a 92 before, collectively. So I've been up and down. And yeah, those numbers are subjective because it's like your 80 might be someone else's 70, but it's your peace index, right? So it generally works. And so it's a concept, it's a simple concept with powerful meaning. Um, for those listening, it's a really, really powerful resource to give to people who maybe are looking for a purpose, who are looking for a little bit of hope in their life. I think it can be really, really encouraging for them.
Yeah, I love right exactly because it puts well with the number it gives them then the ability to adjust, right? If they can know what their number is, then they can ask those other coaching questions, if you will, to help move that needle to get that number to increase the number and experience that peace.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious if there was leaders that I know if they're going to get their book and they want to pass this on, they want to help either other leaders or maybe their team. What do you recommend for someone if they want to help really continue sharing the process with their team or other leaders?
Yeah, so we'll have the site is almost finished, but we're building a course. It's called the Peace Index course, and basically the Peace Index course is on the peaceindexbook.com. Also, giantworldwide.com. You can find it there as well. So both of those are places that could be available. So if you wanted to go, hey, I want to do this, but I actually want to go deeper. I want to actually I want to go through my people plan. The people plan, by the way, is one of those situations you don't want to show people the people plan because you're going to go through and be very objective about people who might be draining in your life, and it needs to stay private. And it's not one of those things where you want to show people because it could really cause a little bit more drama, but it's all intended to help you understand why certain people are allowed in. Maybe certain ways that you should change certain relational dynamics.
Well, excellent. I'll make sure those links are in the show notes. And I know our listeners will want to get a copy of your book. So, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
I think Amazon is the best, Barnes and Noble too, but Amazon is probably just the best, and usually the best pricing in that regard.
Okay, excellent. I'll make sure those links are in the show notes as well. And any other their websites? Is there a main website that you would love listeners to be able to reach out and connect if they want to understand more of your work or how you might be able to
Yeah.
help them?
So the easiest one is jeremiekubicek.com, and it's a strange name. So Jeremie. You can put it in the show notes too, Warren. Kubicek. So
Okay.
that's the place where if you want to come to me, I speak, uh, but I'll speak to a few locations, and then we have about 850 consultants in our world right now that are working around the world, and that's our main client. So if you know anyone who's a coach or a consultant who wants to add this to their repertoire, then that's where giantworldwide.com comes into play.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely make sure that link is in the show notes as well. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for joining me back on the podcast and sharing all the information about your new book. And really excited when it hits the market in October.
Yeah, and the hope would be that we could actually go, who's working on the positive amidst all of the chaotic negative, and just they'll continue to be sound bites of negative news on a daily basis. And I'm just trying to maybe bring a little bit of hope to the world and a little bit of peace, especially in our families and on our personal dynamics. So thanks for letting me be a part of it, Warren, and sure appreciate all that you do.
Very good. Well, yeah. Well, thank you again for being on the show, Jeremie. This is your host, Warren Wandling, and saying until next time, be an obstacle buster.